Hi, I was wondering if you had the new Battletoads game in stock? You don't? Well, you better go and catch it! Oh man, the Battletoads are back, baby, and I am here for it. The question is, are they better than ever? Well, hold on to your speeder bikes, cause we're in for a bumpy ride. I can still remember the first time that I did this. And this. And this. And from that moment on, I was a Battletoad. The Battletoads originally came out in 1991 for the NES as a competitor to the Ninja Turtles, who at the time were at the height of their popularity. The obvious difference being that they were toads, and instead of ninjas, they were f***ing badasses with the ability to kick ass and morph into crazy shapes. I mean, who couldn't love them? There were 6 games in total that came out all within the span of about 4 years. There was one for the NES, Mega Drive, and Sega Genesis, Sega Game Gear, Game Boy, Amiga CD32. One for just the Game Boy, one for just the SNES, one for the SNES, NES, Game Boy, Mega Drive, and Sega Genesis, and finally one that came out for the arcade. Oh, and this one, for the Tiger Electronics handheld. Yeah. Hell, there was even an attempt to bring it to a cartoon series, but yeah, we're not going to talk about that.
You mean we can be totally grossed out heroes and still be our old selves too? Psychotronic!
And then mysteriously nothing for the next 26 years. So imagine my surprise in 2018 when Microsoft announced a new Battletoads game. What? Oh well. Only these weren't my toads, these were different. Now, maintaining a skeptical optimism, because I've been hurt before, I gave it the benefit of the doubt. I don't know, maybe they were looking to change it up a bit and give it a friendlier look. Either way, I reserved any criticism for when I actually played the game, which brings me here. The story goes, after being locked up in a fantasy simulator bunker for 26 years, the Battletoads are no longer intergalactic heroes and have fallen into modern-day obscurity. Unable to settle down for a quiet, simple life, they set out once again to defeat their longtime nemesis, the Dark Queen. I know, it's a very meta and on-the-nose storyline, but it works and it's pretty good. There are 4 acts of varying degrees of difficulty in gameplay. Okay, so full disclosure, I played this on the highest difficulty by myself instead of with 2 other people, so your mileage may vary. That's right, Battletoads finally has 3-player couch co-op, since, you know, there are 3 of them. Oh, and by the way, I hope you like the speeder bikes from the previous games, because the developers seem to really love them. In fact, there are 3 stages that harken back to those. So now you won't be throwing your controller against the wall from 1 stage, but 3 stages. And they are hard, so bring disposable controllers. Lots of them. So let's get to what I liked about the game. I did like that they decided to change things up a bit as far as gameplay goes. I will admit that initially as I was playing through the first stage, I did start to get a little bit bored. I'm not sure if that was because of the beat 'em up gameplay and its repetitive nature, or just because I played way too many games like that in the past. But luckily, I gave it a second chance. I picked it back up, and I'm glad that I did, because there's a lot of fun to be had. Not only did they pay homage to the original style, but they also paid homage to other classic games as well. And these were some of my favorite stages. I'm not sure if this was intentional, but there were a few shorter stages that had you playing these little quick-timey kind of mini-games, much like WarioWare, and those were a lot of fun. Now there was one where you were controlling a spaceship, sort of in the vein of an arcade shooter like Galaga or R-Type. Those were some of the more frantic portions of the game, and while I've never really been a fan of those types of games, this was easily my favorite stage. There was a stage in the style of those bust-a-move games, and there's a side-scrolling stage, and get this, there were puzzles. Yes, puzzles in a Battletoads game, which I appreciate the thought going into some of those stages too. You can definitely tell that somebody sat down and said, hey look, what else can we do with Battletoads that hasn't been done? And I'm hoping that if they do a sequel, that they further explore this side of Battletoads. I also like that they further hashed out some of the personalities as well. In the original games, all you really knew that Pimple was strong, Rash was cool, and Zitz was the leader, and that's pretty much it. Now they gave them each their own personalities and a little more depth and character to work with. Each Toad has their own sense of humor and their own attitude, and it really adds to the story. While there were a few cringe moments where some of the jokes just fell flat and kind of felt out of touch, I definitely found myself laughing quite a bit. Now on to some of the things that I didn't like. I know that I said I liked the varied gameplay and even hope they did more of that in any possible future titles. I just hope that they find a way to make it more consistent. Okay, so allow me to explain. What I mean by this is there are certain moments where stages will be short and relatively easy, and then the following stage will be very long and very hard. No? Nothing? Okay. Well, hang on, you might say. Battletoad games aren't supposed to be easy, and you're right. They're not, and they never have been. But there's a very clear difference between being difficult and being unfun in an unforgiving way. And I get it. Back in the day, they kind of had to do this, and this is opening up another can of worms that I might get deeper into later on in another video. But they had to do this with games. They had to make them more difficult back in the day to artificially lengthen the game. So I get that. But times are different. And I know there's a better way and a different way to make a game difficult without making it unfun. On to my next gripe, the multiplayer. For a game that has long been about co-op gameplay, why is there no online multiplayer? Sure, I guess that could be that there are moments where you need to have hairpin precision, especially in some of those damn speeder bike levels, but it's 2020, I think we can figure it out. Okay, last, the elephant in the room, the art style. I can see what they were going with this design, but for me, cute just isn't who the Toads are. Sure, it does grow on you, and it might be the reason that some of the humor works so well, but there has to be a balance between Saturday morning cartoons and this. Okay, you know what? Now that I look at that again, it looks a little bit creepy, but you know what I mean. There has to be a balance between the cutesiness and something a little more grounded and realistic. So all in all, I'd consider this attempt at bringing the Toads back a pretty successful one, and it's nice to see that after 26 years of there being no new games in the series, that the Toads are just as cool and just as badass as ever. Now, I will admit, there were times that I did wonder if the developers and Microsoft truly knew what made the Toads cool in the first place, but I do think the essence is there, the attitude's there, and the characters are certainly there as well. And now I hope that moving forward with the series, because let's face it, there's probably going to be a sequel, I hope that Microsoft takes any feedback they've received and any criticism and improves on an already tried and true formula, because I'd hate to wait another 26 years just for another Battletoads game. Anyway, that's all the time that I have today. I appreciate you checking out the video. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, and also check me out on Twitch where I stream some of my favorite games and hopefully some of your favorite games as well. Oh, and make sure you leave a comment down below on some of the things that I may have missed that you may have liked or disliked about this game. This is Gluey. You've been watching Glued to Games. Take care.